Ron Paul is on a nonsense channel called Newsmax TV. He's on with Steve Malzberg, and they're going to talk about immigrants, and of course, they're going to talk about them in the most loathsome ways. Take it away.
Talk about what you're seeing. I mean, former Texas congressman, certainly Texas is on the fore there, right at the border, and these kids coming over the border. I mean, this is a huge crisis.
As a congressman living in Texas and also a physician, you know, the health thing sort of strikes me as being very major, even over and above some of these detailed arguments on how we could improve our immigration policies. Our hospitals had already been under siege by immigrants, and with these thousands, tens of thousands, who knows how many, and when you put them all together, this is what you can expect. You're going to see some very serious health problems.
Oh, these immigrants are so dirty. They're going to have health problems. We're under siege by these walkers, illegals, coming over our borders and spreading disease. Now, look, is there a legitimate issue with making sure that people who come across the border get vaccinations, et cetera? Absolutely. You know, the Center for Disease Control already works on that. And they're right to work on that. That's not insulting to immigrants to say, hey, when you come into the country, we got to make sure that you're not carrying any of these ailments. We got to make sure you're vaccinated. That's smart. That's science. We're in favor of that. But to categorize all these people as, you know, disease-ridden, and you got to be watch out, they're going to spread disease everywhere. That's why we can't let them into the country. Well, that smacks of propaganda that is very uncomfortable that we've seen throughout history. Now, let me give you more details here, because they didn't just leave it at that. Ron Paul also said, look, the answer is stop giving people free everything, like free medical care and free education. Yeah, I mean, if someone's lying there bleeding out on the street, I'm not going to give them free medical care. I'm a libertarian. Go ahead and bleed out. I don't care if you're a man, woman, child, it doesn't matter. Libertarian principles bleed out in the streets, right? Well, look, if you don't believe in humanity and you don't think that, you know, that a human being's worth a damn thing, if he doesn't have the right papers or she doesn't have the right papers, okay, then you agree with Ron Paul, great. Don't give him any medical attention. But think about the irony of that. Because part of the reason that there would be a problem of not having vaccinations, et cetera, is if you don't give them medical attention. Whereas if you did the vaccinations when you came in, it would be a lot less of a problem. Now, Malzberg's going to make it worse. He's talking about immigrant kids specifically here when he says, we don't know if they're vaccinated to our standards. They probably aren't in many cases. Okay, that's fine. And then he says, I'm hearing fears of all kinds of hepatitis, TB, Ebola. I mean, how do we keep a lid on all of this? They're coming in with the Ebola virus. Oh my God, it's so scary, run for the hills. They're so diseased, these immigrant kids. You think they're normal kids? No, they're diseased kids. You think he's doing this because he's actually concerned for their health and the health of the people that they affect? No, it's fear-mongering. All the immigrants are toxic. It's about to get worse. By the way, what was Ron Paul's reaction to that? No, you're not going to be able to. You're not going to be able to keep a lid on these diseased immigrant kids. Okay. So how does it get worse? Now, when we leave Newsmax TV, we go to Family Security Matters, another conservative group, and they say that immigrant kids are bringing in things like poisons like cyanide, toxins like ricin, viruses like Ebola, or bacteria such as anthrax. Really? They're coming in with anthrax and ricin? I think I would have picked up on a story about that. That's our job here, to read the news every single day. The only anthrax stories I've ever seen are when white folks send it to politicians in D.C. And I don't know what their political ideology is. The people who did the anthrax in almost every case were lunatics. I couldn't figure out what the hell they were coming from, okay? But they weren't immigrant kids. They weren't immigrants at all. They were kooky white folks somewhere in the country who thought they wanted to kill President Obama or their senators. Now we go to columnist Elizabeth Lee Vliet. She's with WorldNet Daily. She says, that's a conservative website. If you don't know it, you probably don't, because 7 people read it. Other diseases like dengue, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but I'm sure the immigrant kids have it. And Ebola virus. How many times are they going to mention Ebola? Also maybe in this wave of illegals, since people are coming from Central and South America, the Middle East, and West Africa. This is how we dehumanize people. Look, there's positions that Ron Paul has that I agree with. And it's It's not a black and white world. I can agree with them on war. I can agree with them on drugs. I can agree with them on civil liberties and turn around and say, hey, listen, it might help to be a human being on issues like this. It doesn't mean that we even necessarily disagree on policy, although in this case, I'm sure we do. But for example, if we passed immigration reform and then said, one strike and you're out, if you come in here after we fix the system and give you a pathway to citizenship, well, we're going to immediately bring you back to your home country, expatriate you instantly, right? I could even be in favor of that. But I'm not going to do it while I call them diseased, toxic, and all those words meant to belittle them, dehumanize them, so we can have the people here that are already here hate them and turn their hatred towards them, especially in tough economic times. Who's the problem? The outsider! The diseased kid with the Ebola and the anthrax! No, that's not the issue. There's a real issue about what we do with policy, and especially because, let's keep it real, it's the Chamber of Commerce that wants the cheap labor here in the first place. That's what the heart of this problem is. It's not people who are trying to get a living for their family and they came here looking for hope and opportunity. Now, maybe they didn't do it the right way, and maybe that's got to have consequences. But that doesn't mean we have to hate them in the process.